Okay, so this is going to be my review of the Book of Life. Um, this is coming out on November 1st, and then I have my Straw Hats video, Straw Hat Dia de Muertos video that will be coming out tomorrow on November 2nd. This is actually being recorded like a week beforehand because that's when I could schedule when I could record it for things and have it done in time. The Book of Life is kind of a take on the Day of the Dead, Dia de Muertos, from the perspective of it being told as a story. Whereas Coco, as I mentioned, kind of mentioned before, will be, pointing out when I do my Coco review, is a little bit more of like concurrently happening. Book of Life is telling this as a story. So the movie came out in 2014. It is done via the 20th Century Fox Animation and Real FX Animation Studio. So it was made by the both of those. I am going to say this now. I apologize if in the background, if at any point in time you hear like a very loud bang. We are having a lightning storm outside right now, or not a lightning storm outside. We're having a rainstorm outside right now, and if we hear a giant clash of thunder, I apologize. Hopefully it's not raining too hard at the moment, so hopefully that keeps up so we don't get messed up with that for any of the audio there. But I pulled out my one of my Dia de los Muertos mask that I have. You'll also see this in the Straw Hats video. And I think I wore it, and I think something else maybe. I don't remember. These are a little disjointed for when I was recording them. So yeah. Fun times. So yes. So the premise of the movie is it is a story that is being told to children at a museum. So the movie opens with a group of kids that are these like detention school students, just school students that are in detention and stuff like that, and they're going to this museum, and they get introduced to this tour guide whose name is Mary Beth. Now these kids are very disruptive, very like cause trouble, things like that. Is what they're portrayed as. And they meet Mary Beth, and she is their tour guide, takes them through the museum and everything. And she takes them in the museum in a very interesting way. One of the first things that happens is like they shoot a bunch of like spit wads at her, and she just like uses her sign to like block every single one of them, which is awesome. And then she leads them into the side of the museum, where she actually leads them into a secret door, like in the wall, and she like doesn't trick them, but she like brings them in through this hidden door that is kind of skeleton, skull shaped. I'm like, first of all, that's not a good thing. She leads them in there, and she takes them. First, they interact with this other who's kind of like a security guard there, who's like, no, you can't take them through here. Ancient rules of the museum. And she's just like, oh, it's okay. We'll just pretend that it's not happening. He's just like, okay. And she just takes the kids through and takes them into this exhibit that is all about Mexico, history of Mexico, Mexican culture, things like that. We see the beautiful painted skulls all over the walls. We see amazing, architecture that they're showing off. And the centerpiece of this whole exhibit is this book that is up on this altar that is called the Book of Life. And she explains that it holds every story in the world. And she explains, and I love the visuals that they have for this, she shows a galaxy that is shaped like a sombrero. And it's like Earth is the center of that galaxy, and then Mexico is the center of the universe. Which is hilarious. And then Mexico, the center of Mexico, is this town that's called San Angel, Saint Angel's, San Angel. And she starts to explain to them that this town is where a very particular, very important story took place, between not like good and evil, but between like two opposing gods. And up around the portraits, there's portraits of the gods. One is La Muerte, who is the ruler of the land of the remembered, and she's explained to be made out of like sugar candy and like everything good, and she loves humanity and everything like that. And she's very sweet and nice and gentle and everything, and she has this big flaming sombrero hat that is awesome, that is like lined with candles, and she kind of like has like the Dia de Muertos, like the sugar skulls and such like that. eye work and everything like that, and she looks beautiful. And then the other ruler is the ruler of the land of forgotten, Xibalba, and he is made of tar and everything that is icky in the world. And he does not believe that humanity is like kind of worth keeping around. He likes to mess and toy with humans and such like that, whereas La Muerte wants to protect them. And then the third one that she introduces them to is the candle maker, who his job is to create where the life comes from. He makes the candles that represent whether or not someone is alive or dead. And he's made of wax and clouds. And he's very like fun looking and everything. And then she introduces these other characters that are all of the characters that are part of the story that she's going to tell. And they're all wooden figures. And then she starts telling the children the story of these three children that were best friends that lived in San Angel. The concept is that it's kind of taking place, think like turn of the century Mexico is kind of the time frame when it takes place, because they do reference the Mexican Revolution at some point, which I don't remember exactly when that was, but like we get a reference to that. And I'm actually going to take my mask off. There we go. Go there. That gets uncomfortable after a while. But she, she's like using, she's illustrating it with the wooden dolls, and of course we get to see what it's, what it's supposed to be like. And I love how they have the characters. So I would put it as kind of like a reference to stop motion animation, because it's like you see like the joints in the dolls as they move and everything like that. But it's still computer animated, but you can see where it is kind of, I think it's, kind of, an homage to like the stop motion animation concept of it. Admittedly, a stop motion version of this movie would be quite interesting to see. But I love the animation that they put in with the movie and everything, and the music that's in the movie. I love the music in the movie. And it starts off on Day of the Dead, and it's these three children, Manolo, there is Manolo Sanchez, Joaquin Mandrigal, and Maria Posado. And both Joaquin and Manolo are in love with Maria when they are all three children, and they're kind of like the three musketeers, no retreat, no surrender type thing, and they're all best friends. And Maria's father is the mayor of the town, and Joaquin's father is this like war hero that like died protecting the town from this like bandit king. And Manolo's father is kind of like he is from a family of bullfighters, matadors and such. And it's on the Day of the Dead, and we see the three gods kind of looking over them, and we find out that Xibalba has been, Xibalba and La Muerte had a bet years ago, and Xibalba had cheated in the bet, and he is therefore, made to be the ruler of the land of the forgotten. And of course, the land of the remembered is like this big party place, and the land of the forgotten is this kind of desolate area where the people who have been forgotten by everyone end up going, and then they eventually just vanish. They kind of flake away, like what happens in an Endgame or in an Infinity War for Avengers. They kind of go that way, and so we see that. And that part of that, like being forgotten, is also referenced in Coco as well, which at some point when I go over Coco, when I go through all the Pixar movies, I'll go over that as well. But, Xibalba is getting so tired of having to be in the land of the forgotten, because he's so bored and he's so just, I don't want to be here anymore. And it's La Muerte and Xibalba had been in love, and they still kind of are in love. But it's kind of like this concept of La Muerte can't really resist taking a bet. And he makes, Xibalba's like, okay, well, how about we make a bet? And I was like, well, let's see what's going on around us. And they see the kids, and, Joaquin's, Maria has her father and everything. And Manolo has his father and his grandmother, and we see them, and it's explained, we get this kind of explanation as to what Day of the Dead is. One of the little kids, he's like hearing about it in the story, it's like 100 birthday parties and everything. So it's like we hear like the kids chiming in every now and then, with things. And like we see around them, we see like the area of the graveyard where they're in, the cemetery is like all decked out and colorful and everything, which I just love that concept. It's decked out and colorful and beautiful. And like we see all the different families there with like the offerings and flowers and food and everything for like their past loved ones. And like it would appear that I think it's supposed to be that like Manolo's mother Carmen passed away either like within the past year or so, and or recently or so. I don't remember if we ever get an exact answer for how long she's been gone, but she's been gone for a while. And Manolo's grandmother or father and grandmother are like, just it's more of a feeling that they're here. And like we see like kind of around them and other people, we see like the visages, the spirits of like their family around them. And later on in the story we do meet these characters, but we see them around them. And La Muerte and Xibalba have, they're like, okay, well, how about this, two boys in love with the same girl, we each pick a champion, and whichever one she marries, is the winner, And they're like, okay. And like, they go down and they disguise themselves. Like La Muerte disguised herself as an old woman with like a chicken on her head, and Xibalba disguises himself like an ugly old man with a very ugly nose. And like they work their way through, and Xibalba picks Joaquin, but first we see La Muerte pick Manolo. And she's like, may I have a piece of your bread? And he's like very nice, and he gives her some of the bread that they have, because she's like, like an old beggar woman type. That's what she's going for. And she's like, I give you my blessing that you will always be pure of heart, that type of a thing. And of course, Manolo, thanks her for this and everything. And then we see Joaquin, and he's Joaquin is not a bad person. None of the children are bad people by any means. They get put in very interesting situations when they're older, but none of them are bad people. Joaquin kind of wants to become this. He idolizes his father very, very much. And there's like the statue of his father in the town. And in the graveyard area, there's like a mausoleum type thing for his father. I'm assuming his father and his mother. And he's like, well, silly Manolo, always giving away things for free. And then Xibalba shows up as this old man form, and he's like, oh, how about this, may I have a piece of your bread? And the same trick and everything. And he's like, no, this is no, it's it's very good bread, but no, you can't have it. And he's like, what Joaquin's acting like. And he's like, well, what if I give you this? It's he gives him a medal that is called the Medal of like Everlasting Life or whatever like that. And he explains that it's like, you cannot be hurt and you cannot die while you are wearing this medal, and it will give you it gives you like strength, I think, and it gives you unabashed courage or something like that. And Joaquin takes the medal, and he gets the blessing, quote unquote. And then the deal that Xibalba and La Muerte make is that if Xibalba wins, then he gets to rule over the land of the remembered. If La Muerte wins, then Xibalba has to stop interfering with the affairs of man. And he's just like, no, you can't make me do that. That's the only fun I have left. And she's like, fine, then the deal's off. And he's like, fine. Okay, I'll make the bet. And they make the bet. We cut to the next day, and we learn a little bit more about this threat to the town. There is a bandit king out there whose name is Chacal, and he is kind of, he's this main threat to San Angel and some of the other places around Mexico. And Maria's father, who is the mayor of the town, is trying to rally the troops and try to gain men that can come and join the military. And Maria and Manolo and Joaquin are running around the town, and Maria ends up finding this cute little pig that's basically up for slaughter. And she's like, oh no, you're not getting slaughtered on my watch. And she's like, we have to free the animals. And like Manolo is instantly like, yes. And Joaquin's like, wait a second. And they free the animals, and like we get the stampede of pigs and such running through the town. And gets into the marketplace area, and there ends up being this very big pig that's much more of a rabid type pig. That was probably a bit more of a wild caught pig that has like big horns and such. And what ends up happening is Manolo grabs a woman's scarf, and he ends up using basically acting like a matador to the pig, and eventually ends up getting the pig to knock itself out. Joaquin ends up saving the mayor, and the mayor thinks that Joaquin is the one that like stopped the pig and everything. He doesn't see what Manolo did. Manolo's father sees what he did in like taking down the pig and everything like that. And in the process, unfortunately, Manolo's guitar got broken because Manolo has this guitar that we see him playing because like, he loves music and everything. We've seen him playing the guitar throughout the thing. He almost always has the guitar with him. And Maria is very upset that Manolo's guitar got broke. And her father is like, the father does this thing over and over again where he's just like, screams her name whenever she does something bad. And what ends up, and so he's very angry at her like that, and he's like, no, you're going to go to Spain, and you're going to go to the convent of the Sisters of the Perpetual Flame of Purity, or whatever it was called. It was like some long name about like the Perpetual Flame of Purity and blah 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 blah. She's like, you're going to become a proper lady, and she's like, why? Like, why would I want to do that? He's like, you just are, and he like takes her away. And or else he sends her like to go off and pack, and then like he grabs Joaquin and he's like, your father was a very good friend of mine, you're like the son I never had, so come with me and blah 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 blah, I'll train you to become a hero type thing. And Manolo's father comes by and he's like, you're about the same age I was when your grandfather started to teach me to be a bullfighter and everything. And, it's like you become the greatest Sanchez of them all for being, the best bullfighter ever. And Joaquin and Manolo's like, yes, and he was like, they'll write songs about you. And Manolo's like, and I will sing them. Whoa, wait, no. A Sanchez man does not sing. They are bullfighters. And Manolo's just like, oh. Manolo's sad about that. And he's like, I was just about your age when your grandfather started to teach me how to bullfight. And he's like, and Manolo's like, wasn't that when the bull put you into a coma? Ah, memories. Yeah, that you don't have. There's so many great one-liners in this movie, and I just watch the movie for the music and the one-liners. It's so good. And even though it's not a Disney movie, I think it's on Disney Plus now. Well, I know that Disney bought 20th Century Fox, so I think that they're there because of that, but I think that there is Book of Life is on Disney Plus, so go watch that if you haven't yet. And we cut to like the next day or like a day or two later or whatever, and Maria's gonna be heading off on the train and then be sent to Spain, go on train, go to probably port, boat to Spain, be in Spain for however many years. And, she's saying goodbye to her friends and everything, and Manolo gives her a gift, and it's the pig that they saved, and he's like, I named him Chewy. There's a subtext with the pig that it's not really evident in the movie, but I think they have a short that explains it, or that, like, the director explains it in the bonus features. The pig thinks it's a goat, so it makes goat noises, which is just adorable. So it doesn't realize that it's a pig. But, like, so it's like the pig is, like, adores Maria. And so she has the pig, and then she gives Manolo a gift, and the gift is this new beautiful guitar. And that is carved on it. It says, always play from your heart, Maria, that she, like, carved it herself or had it, like, engraved or whatever. And so that's from Maria to Manolo. And then, she hugs both of her friends, and she's, she's very sad to see, that she's going and that she's going to miss them for so long. And she gets on the train with her new pig, and they're going off, and like her bonnet that she was wearing like flies out the window, and Joaquin's actually the one that catches the bonnet. And Joaquin and Manolo are like running alongside the train as it's going, and Joaquin's like, when you come back I will fight for you, and Manolo's like, when you come back I will sing for you and everything. So it's like, they have their goals, and like, and then we get the first song in the movie, which is called I Will Wait, which is I think that's the Mumford and Sons song, I Will Wait. And it's just kind of got like a little bit more of a Mexican flair, and it's sung by Manolo. And as we get the montage sequence of both Manolo and Joaquin growing up, Joaquin training to become, a fighter, and training to become, a soldier and a hero and everything like that, being trained by Maria's father. And we see Manolo training to become a bullfighter while also still, having his music. And we see like, those dichotomy going on there with him. and like they're still friends, and they still, they go, and Joaquin at one point goes off and he becomes like this hero, this kind of war hero, tons of medals and everything. And of course, Manolo grows up and he's, been training to become a bullfighter, but he can never bring himself to kill the bull. And he's like friends with these mariachi brothers, and they're kind of relevant to the plot, but they're just funny side characters and such. And Manolo's father, it's now the day that, it's going to be Manolo's, first official bullfight and everything, with an audience and everything. And it's going to be the day that Maria returns to town, because it's so many years later. So they're all grown up again, and Maria spent the last however many years off in Europe, in Spain, studying and everything like that. And she's supposed to be returning, and we see Joaquin and Manolo kind of do this little. They're still obviously best friends and everything, but we kind of see them do this little bit of, may the best man win type of a thing in regards to, winning Maria's affection and winning her heart. And Manolo's father has actually been very critical of Manolo with the fact of, like, you keep going out and playing with these mariachi brothers. You will not kill the bull. And, a Sanchez man does not play music and everything like that. And, like, you see the grandmother in the background. And the grandmother's hilarious. And Manolo is just like, why do we have to kill the bull? And the grandma has a great line of, these kids today with their long hair, they're no killing things. Watch the movie for the grandma. The grandma's great. I love the grandma. The grandma's awesome. And what ends up happening is we also get this other stuff where he's just like, Manolo's father is just like, you have to kill the bull, and you have to be this great bullfighter. All the Sanchez's have been bullfighters and everything. And the grandmother goes like, I was a beast in the arena. And I'm just like, okay, instead of a sequel, can we get a prequel where we see more of her being the bullfighter in the Maria? Because she's like this tiny little old woman that just like, she's in like a wheelchair the entire time. And like, we see her knitting like the entire time that the movie's going on. We see her knitting. And she's just so funny and adorable. And I'm just like, okay, first of all, I want you as my grandma. Second of all, I want to see your story of you being a bullfighter in the ring. That sounds fun. But she was like, yeah, she's just like, she's awesome. And, we get to, Joaquin's there and everything because, Maria's returning to the town and everything. He wants to see her, of course, and he's kind of this, like, one of the other guests of honor and everything. He's, like, the favorite son of the town. And, like, all the girls in town are just like, oh, Joaquin, he's so amazing. And, all the guys in town are like, yay, Joaquin, you're awesome. And, like, all this other stuff. And, like, he does this great entrance running around on a horse and, signing people's sombreros and giving them back to them. And he's, like, a superstar type thing, of course. And he, he's the guest of honor, so he gets to sit up in the, the main event box at the arena where, of course, the bullfighting is going to be. And, then Maria returns, and, like, we hear this stuff of, like, oh, my God, she reads books for fun. She's, the jewel of the town has returned. She's so beautiful. And, she's going to help out at the orphanage and, like, all this other great stuff about her. And we see Chewie next to her. And she, like, her face is hidden, like, the first time, when she's reintroduced. It's, like, hidden while she's making her way around the arena and up to the box. And she sits down next to Joaquin, and she's like, hola. And she's just like, it's really nice to see you. And she, and we get the reveal of what she looks like. And, like, all the other girls, and I was like, oh, my God, she's so naturally beautiful. And it's just so funny because they're so annoyed about that. And, like, her father is, like, very much, like, adores Joaquin and wants Joaquin to marry her. And then, Manolo comes in and, he comes into the bullfighting ring and he's all set and ready. And I love these little interactions that we see between La Muerte and Xibalba, because, like, when Maria comes in and, like, Xibalba's kind of watching her, like, she's really pretty, and, like, La Muerte just, like, shoots him with fireworks, like, and he's like, I didn't do anything. And he's like, really? What? And then he's like, was that necessary? She's pretty. What do you want? I've been trapped in the land of the remembered for the past however many years. Let me have this moment, woman. Type thing when he's, like, staring. He's, like, doing that and everything. And then, like, Manolo comes in and he does, like, a great pose. And then, like, La Muerte goes, that's my girl. That's my boy. And, like, Xibalba, like, looks at her and she's like, what? I love their interactions. They're great too. And I love the one-liners in this movie, or the moments in this movie. They're just so funny. And then, they let out the bull, and the bull's like got like additional things on him to make him look more threatening. And like he, Manolo does a great job of like leading the bull around the arena, and he like uses the bull, like, adjusts him, directs him enough that he like carves Maria's name in the sand, and like he's got like a rose that he keeps catching and like spinning around and everything like that. And like he kind of knocks the bull down, and then his father is like, okay, you take the sword and you finish the bull. And Manolo is, he's got the sword and he's ready to finish the bull. And like everyone is like cheering for him to do this and everything, to prove that he can do this and everything like that. And he sees Maria reflected in the sword, and she looks so disapproving. And he stops and he puts the sword into the ground. He's like, it's wrong to kill the bull type thing. And he's like standing up against that. And his father's just like, like everybody just gets so angry at him, and like they start throwing stuff at him, but like Maria applauds and everything. She's like, yes, yay, yay, like happy about not killing the bull. And Manolo is like ridiculed by the crowd, and he gets knocked out, and then when he wakes back up again, all the crowd's left, and he gets scolded by his father and his grandmother for you can't do this and everything. And he's like, I'm sorry, I can do this. And his father goes, a Sanchez man never apologizes to the grandma. Never. Never ever, never ever apologizes. I'm like, well, that says something about your marriage. Your husband never apologized for anything. And Manolo is just kind of very sad about this, and even the bull looks kind of like pitying of him. It's like, like the bull goes off, like, seriously, you're mad I didn't kill you, type thing. And like, and this is where we get Manolo singing again. He picks up his guitar, and like it's always, the way that the guitar is set for him to hold, which I don't remember exactly how to hold a guitar. I'm sorry. I've never actually played a guitar. Played trumpet in high school, or in elementary school. That was different. And what ends up happening is like he starts playing, and like he sees the engraving on the guitar, from Maria, always play from your heart, and he starts playing, and he sings a new song that's just called Creep, and it's not like him. It's not him being creepy in the song. As I said, just go through and listen to the songs for this movie. I mean, like, they're great songs. There's some, songs, like, there's a Mumford & Sons, there's an Elvis song, there's a couple of other songs in here, and there's some newer ones that they wrote as well for the movie itself, but, like, they wanted to do, like, this eclectic type of music type thing. And Maria comes in, and she, like, hears Manolo singing and everything, and he, it's actually a very sweet song that he sings, regardless of the fact that it's called Creep. It's a very sweet song, and she's just like, and she goes back to her house, and there's this big party going on at the house that is being hosted by her father, and Joaquin and her, kind of the guests of honor, and they're having a great time and everything. And then her father ends up kind of pushing her, like, Joaquin, too bad you don't have a wife here in town. It might be nice for you to have someone here in town, a reason for you to stay. Like, he keeps like nudging Maria, and she's like, will you stop it? She's like, I know exactly what you're doing, type of thing. And Joaquin was actually being quite sweet for a while, and then one of the things that he does is he basically, Maria kind of like tricks him into this. She's like, yeah, and he's like, yes, and he was like, I have this great mustache, like behind every man with a great mustache is a beautiful woman and everything like that. And she's like, yes, and and I'd cook for you and clean for you and all this fun stuff. And he's like, yeah, you're so pretty. And she's like, is that really what you see a woman as? And like, there's two other guys at the table go, yeah. And Maria's just like, okay, nope, I'm done. She gets up and she walks away. She's like, I have to go check on my pig, Chewy. I have to talk to someone more civilized. And she walks out, walks up to her room. And then we have Manolo, who we see him with the three, three, what are they called? The three mariachi brothers. I don't remember their names. But like, they're kind of drunk. And like everyone was invited to the party except for Manolo. And, because he kind of, A, made a fool of himself, B, he's the, competitor for his daughter's affection, for Maria's affection. And of course, Maria's father wants her to marry Joaquin, and, that type of a thing. as opposed to marrying Manolo. And one of the things, and like Manolo is just like, I don't know what to do. And like the three guys that are the mariachi brothers are just like, well, how about we go and like we serenade her? I'm like, okay, let's see what happens here. And they each try to start serenading Maria, and Manolo's just like off to the side, like, oh my god, why did I let them do this? It's like the look at his face, and then like Chewie starts dropping like potted plants on top of them as they're singing. Like a cactus and like another potted plant just keeps like getting dropped onto him, and Maria is just kind of like laughing in the background, and she's like listening to them sing, and they get the plants dropped on them. And then Manolo starts singing, and he sings I Love You Too Much, which is, I think it's another new song that they wrote for the movie. It's another very sweet song and everything, and it's like him serenading and singing, and Maria comes out onto her balcony, and it's a balcony scene, and like the three mariachis like help lift him up, so like they're kind of kind of eye to eye as he's singing, and they almost kiss, but then Maria stops and she's like, did you really think it was going to be that easy? And then they fall, and then Manolo gets kind of hit in the head, and he's like, so he's a little bit concussed, and he goes like, I kind of did like thought that it was going to be that easy to get Maria, but she's just like, I'm sorry. She comes downstairs, and when she gets downstairs, Joaquin is waiting there on bended knee with the ring, and he proposes. And he's like, it's okay, your father already said it was okay. And like, first of all, that's not what you want to tell her, because Maria is this very independent woman and doesn't want, like, I don't care if my father said it was okay or not, I'm going to marry who I want to marry. And she, Manolo ends up coming in, and Manolo and Joaquin end up having kind of a bit of a fight. Starts off as a sword fight, where Joaquin almost ends up having to use his guitar to fight, which does not work, and
Maria stops them and like chastises both of them, and she runs off. And then then the town is attacked by Chakal's bandits, and like they show up, and they are going to demand everything, demand all the valuables that the town has and everything. And then Joaquin shows up, and he like kind of fights them off, but like one of them notices he wears the medal on his suit, but it's like hidden by like sashes, and like one of the bandits sees the medal, and then they leave and they run off, and like they go to report back to Chakal. And Maria then ends up she kind of like acquiesces a little bit, like she spends some time walking around town with Joaquin as like they talk about like him, basically like all the different medals, and it's like, oh, I got this medal for delivering a baby with one hand by fighting off a bear with the other, and I got this one for rescuing a little puppy that had a thorn in his paw, and I got this one for getting a cat out of a tree, and I got this one for getting a bunch of orphans out of an orphanage, and then going back in for their toys and their cribs and their blah 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 blah. She's just like, oh my god. And like they get back to her house, and he's like, I have something for you, and he gives her like a signed picture, and she's just like, oh god. And then he actually ends up doing something. He shows something a little more sweet, and he reveals that he still has her bonnet that she lost on the train when she left. And he tells her that he uses it, he keeps it with him because it keeps him going. It like reminds him what he's fighting for. So I'm like, okay, that's sweet. And like, no one can deny that Joaquin loves Maria, and no one can deny that Manolo loves Maria. But it's very obvious. It's much more obvious that Maria has more of a love, as in love with Manolo, than she is with Joaquin. And Joaquin, or Manolo, is like told by his father and his grandmother, it's like if you want Maria, then you have to fight for her, go and win her love, type of a thing. And and he's like, but Joaquin already proposed to her, and the grandma's like, if she didn't say yes, then she said no, type of a thing. And he's like, okay. And he goes off, and he makes like this great plan, and he climbs up a light pole and tells her by the window, it's just like, meet me at the the town entrance at like just before sunrise. And she's like, Joaquin, or Manolo, I can't. And she's like, just do it. And and she goes. And when she gets to the town entrance, there's candles leading her out from the town and over the the town itself is kind of shaped like a guitar, which I find so funny. And like there's a bridge that goes off, and she goes over the bridge, and there's like candles all over the bridge, and we hear Manolo singing again, and he's singing "Can't Help Falling in Love with You," which is of course Elvis' song, which I love that song in and of itself. And it's it's a very sweet version of the song that he's singing. And there's like the candles that lead her across the bridge into Manolo, and then he's like, "This is what I wanted you to see," and he shows her like when the sun rises up, and hits the town, it like sparkles and glows and shines, and he's like, looking at this the way that it is the way that I feel whenever I look at you. And he's like, I can't, all I have is my music, and I can't even kill a bull because I can't make myself kill a bull. But I love you, and I will never stop loving you. And she goes like, I will never stop loving the boy who plays from his heart. And she's just about to like kiss him, accept his marriage proposal basically, when Xibalba has kind of cheated. He has sent a two-headed snake, and it's about to bite Manolo, but Maria pushes Manolo out of the way, and it bites her instead. And she appears to die. And then, it starts raining, and of course, everybody comes rushing out of the town. Her father and Joaquin and some of the other military guys come rushing out of the town. And, Maria's, in Manolo's arms, supposedly dead. And, he's like, there was a snake and I couldn't protect her. And, Manolo is just so sad. And of course, Maria's father is upset about this because, his baby girl's dead, and, Joaquin's dead. And like, Joaquin actually says something very mean to Manolo, but in the moment of what's going on, you can't really blame him for saying it. Manolo's like, it should have been me. And Joaquin goes, yeah, it should have. In regards to like, it should have been the snake. You should have been the one bitten by the snake, not Maria. Which is not an easy thing to say to your friend, but in this case, unfortunately, it is kind of, he says it. And, then what ends up happening is, Maria gets taken back to her house and everything, and Manolo goes back to get his guitar. And like in the real world, like we've had it that like the kids keep interrupting the story, like, oh no, she's definitely gonna marry Manolo. She has to marry Joaquin to protect the town. But what about this? And now Maria's dead, and one of the kids goes, what is it with Mexicans and death? Type thing. So we get like the kids like interstitials with the kids back at the museum as Mary Beth is like telling them the story and everything. And what ends up happening is, Manolo goes back for his guitar, and then he ends up interacting with Xibalba, and he's like, if I could just see her one more time, type of a thing, And Xibalba's like, okay then, and he has his snake bite Manolo twice, and Manolo actually dies, and he wakes up in the land of the remembered, the land of the dead. And he then is like, oh, well, I can have my, I'm in the land of the dead, and he interacts with this kind of like, I guess, land of the dead intro cop type thing, who like kind of rides, takes him through and takes him to where all of the Sanchez's are, which there's this huge parade going on, and, the Sanchez's are kind of some of these main parts of the parade because they're so famous and everything, and, he kind of, Manolo kind of gets hopped from like one parade float to the next as he meets his family members. Like he meets his a different ancestor who had been like, I was famous for fighting bulls without a cape, and another one who was like a great uncle that was like, I was famous for fighting bulls with only one hand and one leg, and he has like a sword for a leg and a sword for a hand, like a sword for a hand and a sword for a leg. I'm like, okay. And like he's like, I had wanted to sing opera, and it's like, yeah, they crushed our dreams, and then he sees like, and then Manolo sees his own grandfather, and it was like, I was famous for fighting 3 bulls at once, and like, so we see them, and then Manolo gets taken to the float that has his mother on it. It's this big heart-shaped theme float, and he sees his mother again, Carmen, and she's so happy to see him and everything, and she's just like, I'm so happy to see you, and I've missed you so much and everything, but it's much too soon for you to be here. Why are you here?
And he's like, well, my love Maria died, and now I would like you guys to help me find her. And they're like, okay, well that's fine. We'll try to help you find her then. And they get through the parade, and she introduces him to two of his other cousins. His I think they're called his Atalita cousins, who they fought in the Mexican Revolution, and they died fighting in the Mexican Revolution, but they're awesome, just other characters off the side. And there's another character that just where there was a joke, because in with rodeos, with bullfighting, with bull riding, there's the rodeo clown, and they did this as like a clown that's there, and it's just like he's like the butt of some of the jokes, but he's still there in the background. And they make their way to La Muerta's castle. And what ends up happening is, they make their way in there, and we see the family interacting with each other and everything, and they get to where La Muerte is supposed to be, and it's not La Muerte, it's Xibalba that is in the castle. And he's just like, oh no, I got this from La Muerte and everything. And Manolo's grandfather is like, La Muerte wouldn't give up this job, wouldn't give this all up and everything. And he's like, she lost a bet, and he's like, oh, she'd do that. And I love I love Carmen's line at one point, because it's just like, you love how bullfighters have always been some of La Muerte's favorites. You know how bullfighters always love to flirt with death, and Maria and Carmen goes like, that's why there's so many of you down here. It's like that, yeah, you flirt with death, so there's so many of you that are dead, type of thing. That's why. And and Xibalba's like, well, if we made a bet, if you're dead, then the last one that Maria can marry is Joaquin, and she's not actually dead. She was put into a coma by the bite, and when Joaquin kissed her, his metal touched her, and that woke her up. And now you're dead, so she has one left to marry, and that's Joaquin, and she's gonna marry Joaquin, and then I get to be the one that's in charge of the land of the remembered. And Manolo gets so angry, and it's like, you can't do this, you cheated, you tricked me, and blah 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 blah. And he stands up to Xibalba, and Xibalba doesn't like that, and he's like, I'm gonna find La Muerte, and I'm gonna tell her what you did. And he's like, fine, go ahead, good luck finding her. And and Xibalba leaves. And we see Maria waking up in the back in the land of the living, and she's like, yes, I'll marry Joaquin to protect the town from Chakal and the bandits and everything. And so it's like they go off to do that. And then in the land of the dead, in the land of the remembered, I think it's Manolo's father that's like, well, or grandfather that's like, well, if La Muerte's in the place where Xibalba rotted away, then that means she's in the land of the forgotten. So we need to make our way there, but the only way there is blah 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 blah. So they start making Manolo, Carmen, and I cannot remember the name of his grandfather. Carlos. No, Carlos is his father. I don't remember. I don't remember which one's his grandfather's name. I'm sorry. There's Joaquin. Well, there's Joaquin, but there's Carlos, and there's Jorge, and several other ones that are all in the family line. I'm just like, I don't remember which one was which. I'm sorry. But they go riding off towards the the edge of everything. And the edge of everything is where they're making their way to. And they end up getting to the end, where it's the end of the line, and they climb up this whole thing, and then Manolo has to go through this test. It's like this giant maze pops up out of the ground. And there's these, it's this giant maze, and inside of it are these three giant, stones that are rolling around, and Manolo has to run around and dodge them and everything. And he, via all of his bullfighting, he's actually quite good at it. And at one point, Carlo, I cannot remember the name of his grandfather. I'm sorry. He gets basically his head is just a head at this point in time, because the rest of his body got knocked away, so it's just his head. And Carmen's carrying the head and keeps throwing it up so he can see what's going on inside of the maze. He's like, everything's fine. Run! He's fine. I love this movie. It's so funny and so good, and the music's great. And so Manolo ends up beating the maze by all three of the Rolling Stones. Sad thing is, I don't think I can name three of the Rolling Stones. Um, different video. All come together and like they all Manolo wins, and then he gets the right to be judged because you have to pass mace to get the right to be judged. And he, this giant thing grows out of the ground. This giant like demon statue type thing, and it's got like a giant sword, and it's like it like swings the sword down on Manolo, and he's just like, are you ready to be judged for Maria? He's like he wants to save Maria. And it's like, yes, I mean, like, I'm sure that if Maria did honestly choose to marry Joaquin, that Manolo would be okay with it because it is his best friend. But he loves Maria too, and it's he wants to do what he can because he wants to marry her, of course, and he doesn't want her to marry Joaquin simply because Manolo is dead, just because he's dead. And he survives. The sword hits and shatters around him and shatters to pieces. And then Manolo and his grandfather and his mom go into the Cave of Souls is where they needed to get to, because this Cave of Souls is connected to all the other realms, and they get in there, and then they meet the Candlemaker and his book, which like floats around and is the Book of Life, and it's like, I'm the Candlemaker, this is Book, and that's Puddle, and there's like a puddle on the ground that somehow he knows the name of, and he knows the name of everyone. He's like, Carmen, Luis is his father, is the grandfather's name, sorry, Carmen, Luis, and Manolo, and like all this other fun stuff, and it's just like, okay, and like he hasn't been around people for a while, the Candlemaker hasn't been around people for a while, he's been alone for a while, but like he shows them in his, his Cave of Souls, and like there's the glowing, beautiful candles all over the place and magical waterfalls. And like he explains, this is where we do our work. This is where we make all the different lives and everything like that. And like, there's like the stories that are written in the Book of Life and everything. And he explains that Manolo has that his story is blank and he's been writing his own story. And, so that's just this major thing that happened for Manolo, is that instead of writing the story that was, doing the story that was written for you, you're writing your own one, your own story, and choosing your own path. And what ends up happening is, the Candlemaker explains that actually Chakal is on his way to the village because like the henchmen that came to the village like have gone back to Chakal and are just like, oh, we found this medal and it's the medal that you've been searching for so many years and everything, because Chakal had originally had the medal from Zabalba, and then Zabalba got it back from it, and then Chakal kind of went crazy because he wanted the medal back, because it could prevent him from dying and being hurt and everything. And so Chakal is on his way to the village to attack the town. And what ends up happening is, Manolo is just like, okay, well, we need to get to the land of the forgotten and find Zabal or find La Muerte, and hopefully she can fix this. And they get down there. Well, they kind of jump through a waterfall without looking, and they get caught by the Book of Life, so they don't get hurt, which is just funny. And then they make their way into where Zabalba's castle is. And they find La Muerte, and she's like, what are you guys doing here? And she like fixes Louise, and he's just like, oh good, my arthritis is back. And he's like, oh, my lady, La Muerte, Zabalba cheated and blah, 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 and like did all this other stuff. And she's like, oh, he cheated again. And she's just like so angry. And the Candlemaker's like, you might want to cover your ears and like cover your eyes, and like they all like cover their ears or their eyes or whatever, so they're not, and like Zabalba or like La Muerte screams out to Zabalba, and I'm not gonna do it now because I don't want to hurt your ears, but it's like, Zabalba. I can go louder, but I don't want to hurt your ears. And she screams out, like her hat like literally glows, like the candles on her hat like go supernova type thing. And Zabalba comes down. He's got like a couple of glasses and someone is like, hi, sees the other words. Oh, I have no idea why you called me down here type thing. He's being scolded, of course. And La Muerte just like chews him out. And like, you cheated again, and like all this other stuff. And like, you did all of this, you cheated again, and you blah, 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 blah. And like, she's so angry at him. And Carmen, like, she like slaps him multiple times. And then Carmen's like,
excuse me, I would like a slap too. And she like, and like, Lamarte's like, of course. And she like floats Carmen up, and like Carmen slaps Zibalba a couple of times and then floats her down. And then for some reason, the Calamite Goblin just kind of like, can I get a slap too? I'm like, does that mean you want to slap Zibalba, or does that mean you want to be slapped? Because I don't know which one is funnier in this case, but both of them are funny. And, it's like, Zibalba is basically like, well, why would I want to, why would I want to change anything? And, it's let loose that Zibalba gave, Joaquin the medal of everlasting life. And he's like, I don't know who this one, he's like, I never gave him a medal. No, I don't know who this Joaquin is. Who is this Joaquin? Like, it's just funny, and I'll get out because, like, all the characters have, like, great moments in the story, great funny lines in the story throughout the whole story, and they're great. And, and there was like, well, by all rights, you should give, Manolo his life back. You did trick him out of it, basically. And it's like, well, he has nothing I want. And Manolo's like, well, how about we play this? You pick a task, any task, and if I win, you give me back my life. And he's like, well, that's all fine and good, but you have nothing I want. And La Muerte's like, but I do. If he wins, you give him his life back. If you win, you can rule both realms, both the land of the remembered and the land of the forgotten, giving him so much more power. And he's like, okay, fine. And he determines that the task that he wants Manolo to do is he has to defeat every single one of the bulls that the Sanchez family has ever killed. And that's thousands and thousands of them. And there's, and he has to do it all at once. And they, there's this giant stadium, and like the rest of the Sanchez family is there, and they're watching. And back in the real world, like, Chacal's on his way there. And Chacal, Manolo's father, like, tries to fight off Chacal, and he gets killed. And, at the church, Maria is about to marry Joaquin, but then, that's not going to happen because now Chacal's on his way. And, they stop the wedding and they run out. And, Joaquin runs off because he doesn't have his medal and he needs his medal. And Maria is, like, rallying the citizens of the town and everything to fight against Chacal, because if San Angel dies, if San Angel is destroyed, if everyone dies, then there'll be no one to remember them again. There's be no one to remember the Sanchez family again. And along with everyone else from the village, because they'll all be dead. I mean, by technicality, like, Maria's memory could live on in, like, the nuns at, like, the school she went to, and, like, Joaquin's for, like, some of the other things that he'd done. But the majority of the town would just be forgotten. And that's just very sad. And so, Joaquin, or Manolo, is currently, fighting against all the bulls, and he gets knocked down, and, like, all the bulls kind of, like, merge together into, like, a giant bull that then sets itself on fire for some reason. I don't remember why, but he sets itself on fire. And Manolo is, trying, is like dodging stuff, but he keeps kind of getting knocked down. And he's like, okay, this is not working. And he, instead of, his sword gets knocked off of him and his guitar gets knocked off of him. And he picks up his guitar and he starts singing, because that's where his power lies. He sings, and he sings a song that's just called the Apology Song. And, it's like, singing to the bull and apologizing to the bull for, so many of them that have died because of the Sanchez family, because they've been slaughtered by the Sanchez family when they were, fought against in the, in the bullfighting and everything as the matadors. And, his father is there watching this and everything. And, it's, I kind of will equate this to in Greek mythology. There is the story of Orpheus and Eurydice. And I'm kind of pulling this out of nowhere because I listened to something earlier that talked about Orpheus and Eurydice. So Orpheus and Eurydice, they were two young lovers, and they got married, and Eurydice died on their wedding day by getting bit by a snake, and therefore she goes to the underworld. Orpheus, in all of his grief,
makes his way through the underworld, all the way through the underworld, singing and singing of, his love for her and his sorrow at missing her and losing her and her death and everything. And like he sings all the way through this underworld, all the way through the realm of Hades, through the river Styx, all the way down. And he's still alive. He found his way to an entrance of the underworld, and he sings his way all the way down. And it's like so beautiful. The music is so beautiful that it's like even those who are being tortured and those who are the torturers have like stopped, and like they are listening, and like they are all crying tears of sadness. And like Chiron, or Chiron, whatever is the pronunciation of the ferryman, takes him across, and like does it because he's so touched, and he takes him across, and he sings all the way down to the throne room where Hades and Persephone are sitting, and Persephone is crying so much at like as beautiful as this song is and everything, and like the soul of Eurydice is there, and she's heard this song, and she knows that it's Orpheus, that it's her husband that's there singing. And he's just he's sung all the way down to the throne room in Hades, in Tartarus, all the way to the depths of Hades, and it's like his song is just resonating with everyone that's down there, those that are being tortured, those that are the torturers, those that are in the different fields and everything, whether it's like the fields where it's just like where the everyday people is, and then like the fields of where like all the heroes are, and those who did amazing deeds and everything, like where they are. And it's Hades is so touched by this that he then allows Orpheus to, he's like, I've been so moved by your song, by your music, by your love for your dead wife, that if you walk all the way back out of the underworld, all the way back to the entrance, and make it past the entrance, and you do not turn around, then when you reach the other side, you must have faith that Eurydice is following behind you. And when you reach the other side, when you reach back into the mortal realm, as long as you have not turned and looked, she will be there with you. And long story short, in that case, Orpheus, he does what he's told. He makes his way all the way back. He sees the light at the end of the tunnel, literally, where he's going to, he crosses, if he crosses this tunnel, if he gets to the edge of this, gets to the other side, he'll have his wife back. And like he has resisted turning around and looking this entire time, like he's taking it on faith that like she's behind him. And like he hears like maybe like a stumble on a rock or like a breath every now and then, and he thinks that's her. And unfortunately, in the myth, he turns just before he's reached the end, just before he's reached the tunnel, the end of the tunnel. He turns and he does see her, and she was there, but because he didn't keep his promise, Hermes, the messenger god, shows back up and leads her back down to the underworld again. And, in Orpheus's case, he does end up dying, if I remember correctly. He gets ripped apart by nymphs, which is not a fun thing to have happen to you. But he gets ripped apart by nymphs, and they are reunited in the underworld. I don't remember if they go to like the fields where it's like all of the bountiful food and everything like that. I don't remember if they go there, but they have that. So it's like I kind of equate this like what Manolo was doing, like singing to the bull, and like the bull, the bull, like the fire goes out on the bull, and it just like lays there and like listens, like it's huge. So, like it lays there and like listens to him sing. And like he's like apologizing for like the entire Sanchez family for like what they've done to the bulls over the years. And he like touches the bull, and like the bull kind of not flakes away like it's being forgotten, but like goes away in like a flurry of like flower petals that are very much associated with the Day of the Dead, like flurries away in the flower petals, and like it's like releasing it from whatever bonds are still there, and like it's accepting Manolo's apology for the whole family. And Manolo, he beat the test, he won, he defeated the bull, and Xibalba is like, he did. And so it's also this equation of like, Manolo's music like reached Xibalba as well. And Manolo sees his father and his parent, his mother and his family again. And while he was like doing all of this, like the grandmother has now appeared in the underworld, and it's not because she was killed by Chakal. She was like, cholesterol. It's a killer. And she's like, she died from cholesterol, I guess. And so it's like they're she's reunited with their family. And so Manolo sees his family one more time, and then like Zibal, Zibalba and the Candlemaker and La Muerte, they give Manolo life. They return his life to him. And up in the real world, up in San Angel, Maria has like rallied the town, and she's ready to fight against Chakal, and like make the fight for their own town and everything. And Chakal shows up, and like he like hates everything, and he's just like the typical I want to destroy everything villain. But because he's just kind of this like, Zibalba is more like the actual villain of the movie, but like Chakal is more of this threat. Because like, okay, if Chakal wasn't there, yeah, first of all, Manolo would still work very hard to get his way back to Maria, of course. But in this case, it's the town is also has to overcome their fear of Chakal and such. And what ends up happening is Chakal is about to attack, and like out of the ground comes this huge light, and then like Manolo appears, and like they're just like, where did he come from? Moment. And like Manolo just like picks up Maria, and he like does the dip, and he kisses her and everything, and I like even holds his hand up to Chakal, and he's just like, nope, wait a moment. While I'm kissing the woman that I love. And like it must have been a very doozy of a kiss, because Maria's like, okay, that was nice. And like then Manolo was like ready to fight against Chakal and everything. And then we see Zibalba and La Muerte and the Candlemaker have also appeared on top of the church, and they're like, Manolo, on the Day of the Dead, it's the Day of the Dead, and on the Day of the Dead, we can, bend the rules a little bit. And also have then appeared the rest of the Sanchez family. Like first they're ghosts, and then they appear as like their skeleton forms. And so it's like all of them, it's the uncle and the ancestor and the grandfather and like the two cousins and the clown and his his mother and his father and his grandmother and his grandfather all there. So it's like they're all there, all ready to help fight and protect the town. And it's like we have to get the medal away from Chakal, because Joaquin tried to fight Chakal, but that didn't go very well. And so it's like then like the town as a whole, plus the Sanchez family are then fighting against Chakal, and like Joaquin and Maria and Manolo are just like no retreat, no surrender, fighting together. And so we get this great stuff of like all of the different the family members fighting against the Chakal and his bandits and everything. And like like the priest at one point that's in the town like gets the medal, and he like puts on like a luchador mask, and then like he like attacks some of the bandits and everything. So it's just fun there, and they're running around and having just like great fight scene, and I love it. And then at one point like Chakal manages to like grab Maria, and he like climbs up the church and everything, and he's like, if bring me the medal if you want your woman back. And Maria's like, typical men. Like gets carried up to the top, and Manolo is he's ready to go after Maria. And he tells Joaquin, go and find the medal, I'll take care of Maria. And Joaquin's like, okay. And Manolo is like ready to climb up the church and everything to go and save Maria. And he kind of falls, and then he ends up, we get this moment where he's like grabbed by each member of his family. Like he's grabbed by the older ancestor, that like the one that fought without a cape, and he like it's like keep going, throws him up. And then it's the one that was wanted to be the opera singer, like the sword for a arm, like sends him up. And then it's his grandfather, and tosses him up. And then it's his father that sends him the last bit of the way. And I've never played Final Fantasy, but I think that there's something in one of the Final Fantasies that is like equated to this, where it's like it's like the one helping a person get higher and higher, and like either giving them your power or whatever like that. I think that happened in a Final Fantasy game. I could be wrong. I don't remember, game or movie, something. And Manolo gets to the top, and he fights against Chakal, and actually it's him and Maria like dancing and fighting at the same time, like dancing and like
dodging Chakal's attacks and everything. Like Maria had been like dodging Chakal while she was up there as well, holding her own against him. But it's like the two of them working together to fight against Chakal. Then like the steeple kind of falls, and Chakal kind of ends up getting like trapped by the steeple. But he's got bombs on him, and he's like lit all the bombs. So he's basically going to blow himself up and blow up the whole town in the process, which would destroy them all anyway. And what ends up happening is there was a bell in the bell tower, of course, and that bell is basically right next to where Chakal is, propped up so it can like fall on top of him. And both Manolo and Joaquin run in, and they're kind of like trying to trap Chakal under the bell, and Manolo actually ends up getting trapped under the bell with Chakal after he like pushes Joaquin out of the way, and he was prepared to die. And to protect Maria and to protect the town and everything, to keep the town going, he's like, basically it's like, even if I die, Maria can still marry you, and the two of you will still have each other, basically. And he gets trapped under the bell, and it does Chakal's bombs go off, and like there's a shockwave, and like everybody's just like, oh god, Manolo, because they all think that he's dead. And the bell lifts off, and Manolo walks out, and he's fine. He's not a skeleton. He's not hurt. He's fine. And Maria finds the medal on him, and it's revealed that Joaquin had pushed the medal onto Manolo to protect him, and Joaquin was going to sacrifice himself anyway. Joaquin kind of got injured, and he's kind of got like a bandage around one of his eyes at this point in time, and he's just like, he like takes the medal back from Manolo and gives it back to Xibalba, and he's just like, it's time to stop living in my father's shadow. I gotta be a real hero. I gotta be be who I really am. Forge my own path, type of a thing. And so it's like he is happy, and he basically blesses Maria and Manolo for them to be together. And then Maria's father basically does the same thing. He basically pushes Manolo towards Maria to, propose, and Manolo proposes, and of course Maria says yes. And then we cut to we cut to inside the church. We have like all the Sanchez family, and like I don't know if there's anybody else from the Land of the Dead, but there's like the Sanchez family, and like everybody else in town is at the wedding, and the candle maker and the priest are the presiding over the wedding, and like Chewy is Maria's like pig of honor, and Joaquin is of course Manolo's best man, of course, and they pronounce Manolo husband and wife, and it's like, you may kiss, and Maria's already kissing him, the groom. And so we get those. And then we get like the last song in the movie is no matter where you are. And I love the song, and like it's Maria and Manolo that are singing it, and it's like their wedding song. It's like everybody's dancing and singing, and the Sanchez family is skeletons are there at the wedding and everything. And we cut to where we have Xibalba and La Muerte, and they've actually they've reconciled. He's like, you've won the bet, and my heart all over again, is what Xibalba says to La Muerte. And and they kiss, so they've reconciled, they're together again, they're happy again. It's not like they were ever out of love. It was just, it needed to be rekindled by watching these two, these three that were willing to do whatever it took to protect each other and protect their town, and how much Manolo and Maria were willing to go through. And so we get that, and then we cut to where the kids back in the present day are now leaving the museum and everything, and they're all amazed by the story and everything of the museum, and Mary Beth sends them off, and she's waving them off, and then she transforms into La Muerte. And there was like, oh my god, it's like they realized that it was her, and like she's like waving them off and everything, and then Xibalba, then the security guard walks over, and he transforms into Xibalba, and they're like, oh my god, and like they're sending off, and he's like, you show those children a story, and she's like, yes, and anybody can die, these children are going to live, type of a thing. It's like she's inspiring them to live. And then it cuts to, we see Zabalba and La Muerte kiss and everything, and I love it when they kiss, because like, he bends her down and dips her, and then her giant hat's there, and like her train with her candles, and then his wings pop out. And I just love that. I just like that. It's like two of them together make a perfect match. And then we cut to the Candlemaker and the Book of Life, and he is like, go and write your own story, is what he tells, is what he's telling the audience to do. And then we get another version of No Matter Where You Are, which is sung by Us the Duo, which I really really like. And then we have Live Life, which is just it's kind of a more poppy song, but it's still a fun song to sing. And I think that was sung by Jesse and Joy, I think is who that was sung by. And then we have the cast. We have Diego Luna as Manolo Sanchez. We have Zoe Saldana as Maria Casado. Zoe Saldana is, of course, Gamora from the Marvel movies, from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, of course. She's also O'Hara in the Star Trek movies and the reboot movies that they did there. We have Channing Tatum as Joaquin Mondrigal Jr. He's, of course, from Step Up and Magic Mike and several other movies, of course, that he's been in. We have Ice Cube as the Candlemaker. We have Ron Perlman as Xibalba, and he's, of course, he's Hellboy and so many other things. We have Kat de Castillo as La Muerte, and then for the Mary Beth voice, we have Christina Applegate as the Mary Beth character doing that version of the voice. And then we have Hector Elizondo as Carlos Sanchez, who is, of course, Manolo's father. I know him more from the Princess Diaries movies, where he plays the bodyguard that marries Julie Andrews' character, the Queen, and he's been in a bunch of Gary Marshall movies, of course. Then we have Ana de la Reguera, I apologize if I mispronounced that, as Carmen, of course, Manolo's mother. We have Danny Trejo as Luis Sanchez, who is, of course, Manolo's grandfather. We have Greg Griffin as Grandma Anita Sanchez, who is, of course, Grandma, it says it's Manolo's short great grandmother, so it's his great grandmother, not his grandmother, who later dies due to cholesterol problems, is who she is. And then we have Carlos Zakui. I apologize again for mispronouncing this. Who is General Ramiro Prasado, who is Maria's father. We have Placido Domingo as Jorge Sanchez, who is Manolo's deceased granduncle. We have Jorge R. Gutierrez as Carmelo Sanchez, who is Manolo's deceased tall and burly Aztec ancestor, who is often referred to as a savage by Jorge. We have Gabriel Iglesias as Pepe Rodriguez, the largest of the three magicians. We have Cheech Marin as Pancho Rodriguez, who is the medium-sized one of the three mariachi bands. And, of course, Cheech Marin is, of course, Cheech and Chong. And then we have Ricardo Sanchez as Pablo Rodriguez, who is the other one of them. We have, actually, I think that's about it for them. There's, various kids that played the kids in the movie. There was supposed to be a sequel. I don't know if there is still going to be a sequel. The director of this had actually kind of conceived it as a bit of a trilogy series, where it's, the first movie is about like Manolo and his relationship with his father, and the second one is about like Joaquin's relationship with his father, with Captain Mondragon, and the third one is going to be like Maria's relationship with her father. And Maria and her father, like, their relationship is much better by the end of this movie. And via other material,
3 years after the movie, or the timeline of the movie, Maria and Manolo had twin daughters, and then they have a son. I do not know if Joaquin ever got married. I don't remember seeing that anywhere, but like Maria and Manolo had children, of course. And actually, some parts of the movie, the proposal scene is actually based on how the director actually proposed to his wife, which I just find very romantic and everything, with like the candles and everything. And he actually says it's like in the movie, all of the men are flawed, but the women have it much more together, because that's the way he always saw it when he was growing up. And such. So we get a lot of fun there with those characters and with the story and everything. And I just love the story and the music and the story. And I just think that it's a great movie. The animation, the music, the voices are great. The story itself is amazing. So I would highly recommend it. If for some reason you're watching this and you haven't actually seen The Book of Life, I would advise going and watching that. As I said, I think it's on Disney Plus. It's probably also on a bunch of other stuff. I very much highly recommend it. It's very good. So that's what we have for this, for the Dia de Muertos. Let me put my mask back on. There we go. This is also, of course, going out on All Saints Day. And then, of course, the next day would be All Souls Day. So, it's also this reminder of, remembering that, those who have gone before you, and, keeping their memories alive and everything. That's also what this movie is about. It's also kind of what Coco was about. And I don't know what to say. I love this movie. I love the movie. I love the music. The characters are amazing. I love Maria. And I love Manolo. They're just I think they're one of my favorite animated couples, outside of Disney, and even possibly with Disney being as part of that list. But yeah, so that's what we have for that. I hope you enjoyed the movie, or I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you go and watch the movie, either again if you've watched it before, or for the first time. If you're going to watch this review and then watch the movie, I would advise watching the movie first. Yeah, let's watch the review before we watch the actual movie. No. Go watch the movie first. But that's what we have. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day, and happy Dia de los Muertos to any of you that are celebrating it. So, bye-bye. The world keeps spinning, and the tales keep turning, and people come and people go, but they're never forgotten. And the one truth we know, it held true one more time, that love, true love, the really, really good kind of love, never dies.